one more, and we can roll. Got Senator Hester here. Okay, guys, we got our quorum, and we're gonna start our bill hearings, and we're gonna bring up Chair Atterbury first. And Madam Chair, I've got signed up. Is Maya Link here? Maya, can I bring up? We've got some favorable witnesses signed up.
Which bill is this, Mr.
Oh,
Chair?
I'm sorry. I apologize. House Bill 782.
Okay.
782. House Bill 782, so I've got Maya Link, Kimberly Buckheit, and Barbara Zechnick. Those are three, are signed up favorable. And so, Chair Atterbury, you take the time you need to present House Bill 782.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am Delegate Vanessa Atterbury here asking for a favorable report on House Bill 782. I'll just mention that this was unanimous in committee and everybody actually amended their name onto the bill, and it was unanimous in the House for the people that were there that day, 136-0. So House Bill 782 directs the Maryland Center for School Safety to research and study what the most effective and rapid method is for detecting and reporting deadly weapons in Maryland public middle and high schools. If they already haven't gone through that process, it's my understanding some jurisdictions have already done that, like Baltimore County has already done that. The legislation seeks to simply make our schools safer and keep our schools safe. I will mention, and you will hear from Zero Eyes about some of the technology. On the House hearing, we had 3 such companies come and testify to what they could do, and I became familiar with Zero Eyes a couple years ago, which is what gave me the idea for this legislation. Some of the bill's provisions include a comprehensive look at the current and physical technological security infrastructure used in the schools and identifying any gaps. It has to evaluate methods not currently used in schools, including security cameras, software programs. The study has to be shared with the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, this committee, and the Ways and Means Committee. And it gives the Center for School Safety a year to report its findings. So the deadline would be 2027 is what we worked out. And with that, I will ask for a favorable report and turn it over to those here to testify in favor, Mr. Chair.
Okay, fantastic. Everybody other than sponsors are going to be on a 2-minute clock, okay? So you'll see the clock. Tell us your name and you can start.
Thank you, Chair Feldman and committee members, for the opportunity to testify in support of this important legislation. My name is Mia Link. I'm the Vice President of Strategy for Zero Eyes. School safety is a growing concern for all of us, and modern software and technological solutions can provide a proactive and effective way to mitigate threats. Zero Eyes software integrates to existing security cameras to detect visible firearms, and it's designed to alert first responders within seconds of a verified gun detection, allowing law enforcement to respond faster and potentially stop a threat before shots are fired. So Zero Eyes is a credible and proven solution. We've successfully detected thousands of weapons and led to dozens of arrests, preventing potential tragedies. So as we discuss this bill, I do want to directly address some of the counter-arguments that have been raised regarding this type of technology in schools. So a common opposition focuses on concerns related to walk-through weapons detectors. It's really important to clarify that not all school safety technology is the same. Zero Eyes is fundamentally different. So our solution doesn't require students or staff to pass through metal detectors or other new screening infrastructure. Instead, it seamlessly integrates to existing security camera systems to provide real-time proactive firearm detection and situational awareness to first responders and security personnel. So I want to highlight that Zero Eyes is non-intrusive and does not make schools feel like courthouses or detention centers. There are no invasive searches or obstructions to daily student life, just a silent, always-on layer of protection. This technology is also designed to eliminate bias and privacy concerns. It does not rely on facial recognition or personal identification. Zero Eyes focuses solely on detecting a single object, firearms, and visible firearms. And our software doesn't analyze faces, skin color, or identity, ensuring an equitable and unbiased security approach. And then most importantly, this legislation doesn't mandate the adoption of Zero Eyes or any specific software technology. So it just gives schools the ability to determine whether this additional layer of security is right for their community. So thank you for your time and consideration. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to our other witness, then we'll take questions.
Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, members of the committee. I am Kimberly Buckheit, the Director
Hey,
of
Kimberly, could you put the mic a little closer? There you go. Yeah, there you go. Don't touch it. No. Yeah, good. Just, yeah.
I am Kimberly Buckheit, the Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Maryland Center for School Safety, speaking on behalf of the center. Thank you for the opportunity to provide oral testimony in support of House Bill 782. MCSS appreciates the work with committee members in the past related to physical safety of schools. We know this is an important topic to you and our legislatures. We would also like to thank Delegate Atterbury for her willingness to work with us to amend the bill, allowing MCSS to lead the effort and protect security-specific information from public disclosure. MCSS recognizes the value of providing a summary of existing technologies to assist local school systems in making decisions that meet their local needs. We are vendor agnostic and do not promote any one vendor. The study will focus on the types of technologies that exist, and the local school systems would engage directly with vendors of their choice. MCSS remains committed to assisting local school systems in implementing a layered approach to school safety, and I remain available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Question, Senator Watson.
Thank you. Good seeing you again. My question is simple. You recall last year I had the Maryland Firearm Detection Platform, which I believe did exactly this. But last year you just gave information. Now you're favorable with amendments on this version of the bill. Can you tell me what changed?
I think so. Working with Delegate Atterbury, it was really related to being able to provide a comprehensive list of existing technologies, both weapon detections and other items for locals to make that decision. I don't recall specifically the bill you're speaking to last year.
You don't recall
yeah.
you testified on my bill?
No, I don't
I
recall
understand.
personally doing that, sir.
I got it. So on this bill, other than Zero Eyes, what other companies were consulted or came in and testified?
I couldn't speak to that.
I can look and get you that. I'm gonna look in my binder, but three other companies.
It was Volt AI and Pervista.
One
Okay.
is located in Montgomery County. And
Vista's in Prince George's. That's what I wanted to hear. Okay.
that young, yeah, he came in too.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Senator Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chair Atterbury, for this bill. I have two questions, which fortunately you included in your testimony, but I'd like to hear some more details from MCSS about addressing student privacy, and then also about the concerns around racial profiling and collecting that data and how that. So if you could give us some details about the privacy and then the racial profiling?
Yeah, so any specific details, I think, related to that, that's where, so the 782 really allows us to create a comprehensive list of what are available technologies out there to help locals make those decisions around which one of those vendors best meets their needs. I think the other work that's happening across the state and within the legislature related to privacy rights becomes applicable, right? Our work with the Department of Information Technology related to AI and those elements would overlay with some of this.
I raised it because you mentioned it in your testimony, so you know that it's an important component or a challenge related, concerns about surveillance and data. So in general, are there some principles or values or things that the department believes or that the center believes should be an important feature of any contract or anything that we might do in this space?
Yeah, I could not speak directly to that as an expert, but we could definitely get back to you with some of those particular items.
Okay, cool. And then regarding the racial or ethnic profiling.
Sure. So Zero Eyes in particular, I also just want to highlight that we're FERPA compliant. So, when it comes to the privacy concerns. But in terms of the profiling and bias, we're only doing object detection. So we're not looking at any faces or skin color. It's just the technology, the AI is looking for the form factor of a firearm. So we do like just handheld guns, short guns and long guns. And we're only receiving those detections. Do you have?
No, that's
okay.
Just, again, Madam Chair, my purpose was to get these answers on record as a part of this deliberation and this hearing, so that if they are raised later, that we can point to the record and clarify. So
absolutely, and I'm happy to provide a white paper that our company has written because you're not the only person with that concern. So we have to address this before in the past.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Senator Hester.
Thank you. It's great to see you, Chair Atterbury. I really think that the time has come for this type of study. I had a bill last year, which I think was slightly broader, which the Center for School Safety testified in support of. And I was looking at the review of the state of physical security in the schools. So this is more narrowly tailored towards just weapons detection. Is that correct?
Yes, so our intent would be to incorporate into those physical security, those assessments that are completed by all the local school systems to put this as part of what's existing there with those assessments. So this is another component then. What technologies are they using, right? And then the secondary element is here are all the available technologies that are out there for locals to be able to then make decisions about selecting if they can add to
And that would be
their
publicly
repertoire.
available then?
Yeah.
Okay, and then just, if I might, Mr. Chair, just one follow-up. So I believe that, in Senate Bill 818 from last year, where we were looking at AI, we required anything that the state purchases with AI to undertake an impact assessment. And so my question is, when you're doing the review of these technologies, can you ask the potential vendors whether or not their product has had an impact assessment, both for efficacy of whether it actually works, but also for the kinds of issues that my senator to my right was just talking about?
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable, Hester. And I think as we work to build this out over the course of the next 6 months, what this study looks like, right, and this comprehensive list, what elements, what pieces of information become really important for locals to use to that point.
Excellent. Yeah. I'd love to be a co-sponsor, but I can't.
Senator Washington.
So then, if the study does not specifically include an evaluation of the measures that actually reduce, could we amend it to just add that to the study?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Madam Chair.
So, I'm not going to press this, but there we go. Okay. With both what you just said and Senator Hester, we talked about those things. We tried not to be too specific, but I was very concerned about identifying individuals by race, and other folks had impact concerns. So we had discussions about that along with the other two vendors that I met with, whom I met with separately. And so, I think that would be a great addition to the bill.
Okay, we're going to go back to Senator Watson for a second crack here.
Real quickly, let me just add, this is a great bill, Chair. A great bill, and I'm just so glad. But I just want to state for the record, since I introduced a version of this bill last year, you remember there was a shooting at Bowie State University during homecoming. Since then, the Pervista product has been in active use at Bowie State University with no additional incidents. But they've also evolved the technology to now detect knives. And so it is constantly working, the AI is working, and any fear that you have that it might be profiling, it doesn't do that at all. And I'm a big supporter of this bill, and thank you for coming.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, just,
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Come on.
the company that you're talking about from Prince George's County, I met with him, and it's an African-American minority-owned company. So we had that discussion in detail. And I will just say that the other company that I met with is starting a pilot program, I'm not sure at which schools, in Montgomery County, actually free of charge. That will be happening soon.
Okay, any additional questions for Chair Atterbury or the two witnesses? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 782. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
We're going to just take folks as they came in, and next up, according to my crack whip list here, is Delegate Patterson, who has two bills.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, it's not under your name. It's under Ways and Means.
It was a departmental.
Gotcha, departmental. Okay. 1265
Yes,
is, would you say 1265? Okay, HB 1265, Madam Chair, on behalf of, it's a departmental bill, and you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Delegate Vanessa Atterbury, here to testify in support of House Bill 1265 and ask for your favorable report. It's a departmental, and I'm here testifying on it because we had multiple bills related to affordable offenses from all sides of the aisle this year. And so what we did was sat down with Judiciary, because in the House, some were assigned to Judiciary, some were assigned to Ways and Means. So we sat down with the Chair of Judiciary, members of his committee, and we came up with this final product. So this was also unanimous in committee and was 127 to 11 in the House. So this is a bipartisan piece of legislation that includes provisions from multiple reportable offense-related bills that we had this session, all which share the common purpose of keeping our schools safe. This bill contains several components that address school safety concerns while cutting down on the number of reportable offenses. So essentially what we did was kept in all the crimes of violence. We added two reportable offenses in threats of mass violence and, I always mispronounce it, observing someone with prurient intent. So basically trying to watch someone while they're in the bathroom or look up under their skirt or something. So we added those two. We took out a lot of low-level offenses like drug offenses, perjury, and the like, because studies and statistics show that the majority of folks or students who are subjected to these are kids of color and disproportionately students that are part of the disability community. We also took a stab at, because a lot of counties and jurisdictions are interested in this, and Howard County too, the notifications. So when a school has to notify another school if someone has been arrested. So we said a school system must share reporting offense information when a student transfers to a new school system, as must the Department of Juvenile Services. And I'm not sure if you have it yet, we have an amendment that we are happy to take, that was from the Department of Juvenile Services, that was related to reporting as well, that we have no problem with. And with that, I'll ask for a favorable report.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I was I should have called up, there were some witnesses that had signed up, but let's take questions, and the chair may want to get back to committee, I'm not sure, but let's go with Senator Watson and Senator Gallion, and then after that, we can bring up the witnesses who had signed up.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
so-
Easy question. Does this include possession of firearm?
Possession of a firearm, I'm not sure, I have to check. It
I'd
might
just
not
like to
be.
know that. And you look good talking about this on TV this morning.
He's being very kind to me because he never likes my bills.
Okay, Senator Gallion.
Mr. Chair, good to see you. Does this include, is rape included on the list of offenses?
We kept in sexual offenses, yes, so rape would be included.
Okay, and it's still on the list of, it's on the list of offenses of the reportable crimes, it's still on the list?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Some of the witnesses will probably be more prepared to answer those questions, too.
Madam Chair, just one quick question. The MSD apparently promulgated some regulations in this space, so is this bill consistent with those regs? Or I see people in the back nodding yes, but just put it out there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's probably one of our next witnesses, so
Okay.
we can. Okay, any additional questions for, yes, Vice Chair Kagan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Chair, I assume I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it publicly anyway, because it was such a consensus bill. The favorable with amendment that came from our superintendents, our boards of education, the Department of Juvenile Services, and others, they've all been
Addressed, yeah.
reassured and addressed.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
any additional questions? Chair Atterbury? Okay, seeing none, let me call the witnesses that I should have called up. Beginning, Abby Flanagan from the Office of Public Defender. Is Flanagan here? Levi Bradford from Public Justice Center. Kelly Quinn, Carolyn Annenson, and then finally Mary Pat Fannin from the Superintendents. Those are the extent of the witnesses on the bill. And so each of you are going to be on the 2-minute clock. And so you're either all signed up favorable or, in one case, favorable amendment. So why don't we start right there straight ahead and give us your name, and then you're on the 2-minute clock, okay?
Sure. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Kara Annenson. I am the Director of Legislation, Policy, and Reform at the Department of Juvenile Services. We're here today in support of House Bill 1265 with an amendment. DJS introduced this bill after the Moore-Miller administration asked DJS to lead an interagency review of information sharing procedures for youth charged with or convicted of a violent offense while enrolled in Maryland public schools. The gap that we identified is that this bill is addressing is that information about reportable offenses is shared with a new school district after a youth has been in custody of the Department of Juvenile Services and is transferring to a new school district. We appreciate Chair Atterbury in working with us. We believe the amendment that she has provided to you all addresses that information sharing gap. We do also ask to be re-added to be a co-lead of the work group in the uncodified language, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Let's just go down the table. Give us your name.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Kelly Quinn. I am the Managing Director of the Choice Program at UMBC, and today I'm here in the capacity of the Chairperson of the Maryland Coalition to Reform School Discipline. We're grateful to Chairperson Atterbury and Chairperson Clippinger. By our reckoning, there were 11 reportable offenses bills down here this year. Chairperson I don't mean to brag, but Chairperson Atterbury's was the best. So we're really excited for this amended bill. We in the coalition believe in community safety, and we promote laws that are just, practical, and appropriate for all students. We bring together advocates, service providers, community members dedicated to transforming school discipline practices within Maryland public schools. We're committed to the fair and equitable treatment for all students, including pregnant and parenting students, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, religion, and school economic status. We're committed to reducing the barriers for learning for all students. We're opposed to school pushout. We are in support of House Bill 1265. It's necessary for a number of reasons. The overuse of school removal, especially in circumstances where a student poses no safety concern, harms school climate and hinders achievement for all students. Bias exists at every level of the legal system, and it leads to reportable offenses being disproportionately used against Black students. This bill focuses the reportable offense statute on the offenses that communities are most concerned about. Maryland law has it that students stay in school unless they pose an imminent threat of serious harm. My colleagues will talk more about that. We are here to talk about the laws and the concerns that are most important to communities. Additionally, this bill, through its limitations on, thank you.
I think we got the
Additionally,
gist.
they'll say
Yeah.
more.
Okay, sir, you also will be on the 2-minute clock. Give
Thank
us your
you,
name.
Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the committee. My name is Levi Bradford. I'm an education attorney with the Public Justice Center. We support this bill. It, like Ms. Quinn said, it focuses the reportable offense statute on the offenses that pertain to school safety, and it reduces the amount of wasted resources on incidents that don't actually impact school safety. Further, passing this bill will reduce the egregious racial disparities that are present in the school-to-prison pipeline in Maryland. In recent advice to school administrators, in an article in the School Administrator magazine, safety experts Christine Eath and Kenneth Trump criticize safety improvement tactics that only make people feel safer and fail to substantively improve school safety. The overuse of reportable offenses is one of those methods that may give the impression of improving safety, but does not itself, in fact, do that. Research shows that the overuse of suspension and other forms of school pushout harm students in the school community at large. But what the research supports is a change in perspective when it comes to school safety, focusing on safety as an environment free of fear, intimidation, violence, and isolation. And this bill achieves that by better focusing the reportable offense statute on the offenses that actually give schools the tools they need to determine whether there's a safety risk at a school. So decreasing our reliance on reportable offenses and focusing it the way that this bill does improves outcomes across the board. And we as a community should continue to support these efforts to focus safety on more holistic terms, an environment that is free of fear, intimidation, violence, and isolation. And I think this bill gets us closer to that goal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bring us to our final witness. Here, put that mic, get that mic over there.
Thank you.
And actually, I think Mary Pat Fannin, you're actually on this bill. If you want to come up, you'll be the final witness. Yeah, you walked in. Okay.
Good
tell us
afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, members of the committee. My name is Abby Flanagan, and I'm an education attorney at the Maryland Office of the Public Defender, here in support of House Bill 1265. This bill is a fair compromise, and it aims to narrow the scope of reportable offenses to focus more directly on student safety. When reportable offenses was first introduced in 1995, it was intended to provide schools with additional information about potential safety threats, but over time the law has expanded incrementally, with offenses being added every few years. Now it covers a broad range of offenses, many of which have little connection to whether a student actually poses a safety risk in a school setting. Each notification of a student's arrest requires school officials to gather information, conduct an investigation, sometimes meet with parents and attorneys to determine if any intervention, such as a safety plan, is necessary or if this student should be removed from school. The expansive reach of the current law diverts valuable time and resources from addressing other concerns within schools and ultimately undermines its effectiveness. So also, the current broad list of reportable offenses has led to inconsistent enforcement across the state and resulted in the racial disparities that my colleagues spoke of, with Black students being 4 times more likely to have their school notified of their reportable offense than their peers. So the Maryland Office of the Public Defender advocates for any opportunity to reduce the exposure of Maryland's youth to harmful bias-based decision-making. By limiting the scope of reportable offenses as done in House Bill 1265, this represents a crucial step in addressing the racial disparities while still allowing schools to receive relevant information to make informed choices about student safety. Thank you.
Okay, and now we'll go to our final witness, Mary Pat Fannin. Why don't you're on the 2-minute clock.
Good afternoon. For the record, Mary Pat Fannin, Executive Director of the Public School Superintendents Association. We support House Bill 1265. Apologize that you don't have any written testimony. We think it's a good compromise. We think that the reduction of the reportable offenses is is meaningful because they are not issues that would really jeopardize the safety of the school. The information sharing for us is huge. The fact that DJS is going to provide information to us for children that they have in custody so that we can make the most appropriate educational determination and placement for them and for the schools that they would be going to. That's very important. And then the work group is exactly what we asked for when we came earlier in session. And so we'll work on those protocols to make sure that everyone's due process is covered, all the information is shared appropriately, with all privacy concerns addressed as well. So we're happy with where we are. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Watson.
Thank you. Mary, you had favorable with amendments. Your amendments are already rolled up in this final version?
Are you married too?
I'm Karen.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you.
Wait, did you mean Mary or Mary Pat? Or?
Mary Pat.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
yes.
did I have amendments?
It looks like you have favorable with amendments
Okay.
from PZAM. Are they rolled up?
They're rolled in. Sorry about
All right, and my last question is for Abby. If you get caught with a firearm, is that a reportable offense?
Yes.
I love the bill.
Under 4102, 4103, 4203, and 4204 still remain.
Love the bill.
Okay, just two quick things. We do not have the amendments that have been referenced yet in our possession, so Chair Atterbury just, and then also this bill's second on this is JPR, judicial proceedings, so if we move it, it's still got to get through that gauntlet. So just with that said, any final questions? Seeing none, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1265. And we're going to next move to Delegate Patterson, who was next in the queue, got here, and she's got, Delegate Patterson got two bills. I'm going to start, we can start with House Bill 1204, and I've got two witnesses signed up, Andy Culp and Brittany Bledsoe. We're going to join you, and so Delegate Patterson, you can proceed on HB 1204.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the Senate Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Edith Patterson, sponsor of public and non-public schools student elopement notice and reporting requirements. This legislation is inspired by the tragic death of a 5-year-old boy from Charles County. The young man was autistic and nonverbal and drowned after leaving a supervised area. Meeting with his parents and members of the autism community in Charles County brought to light a devastating reality. Drowning is a leading cause of death for autistic children and adults. Elopement occurs when an autistic student leaves a supervised area without permission. This behavior is not only dangerous, but as this young man's story demonstrates, potentially fatal. Shockingly, his parents learned at the end of the school year that he had eloped from school more than 700 times during the school year. Despite the frequency of these incidents, his school did not have a plan in place to notify his parents or address this high-risk behavior adequately. This lack of communication and planning underscores the urgent need for this legislation. This legislation will require in 3 areas: parent notification, requiring public agencies will be required to notify a parent or legal guardian when a student attempts or successfully elopes from a supervised area or school campus. 2, state reporting and accountability. The State Department of Education will develop a system to report incidents of attempted or achieved elopement and hold schools accountable for compliance with these regulations. And 3, inclusion in individualized plans. A student's elopement behavior will be reviewed annually as part of their IEP or individualized education program and addressed in their behavior intervention plan, the BIP. This ensures that elopement is treated with the seriousness it deserves and that tailored strategies are developed to keep students safe. The bill represents more than a policy change. It is a life-saving measure. It ensures that parents are immediately informed when their child elopes, allowing them to take adequate action. by integrating elopement behavior into IEPs and BEPs. Schools will be required to address these incidents with preventative measures and individualized interventions proactively. The tragic situation in Charles County is a sobering reminder of what is at stake. We cannot allow another family to endure such a preventable tragedy. This legislation protects our most vulnerable community members and ensures that schools are equipped to respond to and mitigate the risk of elopement. We have two amendments. First, we would like to name this bill in honor of a young man who lost his life when he eloped, Ace Alexander, and his mother is here. And second, removes the reference to a 24-hour notice and substitutes same day. This legislation reflects amendments offered by various advocacy groups, the ARC of Maryland, Disability Rights, Personal Testimony, and it passed unanimously in the House. I am asking for a favorable report, for together we can make our schools safer and help protect the lives of our most vulnerable citizens. Thank you very much.
Yes, Andy or Ms. Bledsoe, who would you, however.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Brittany Bledsoe. I'm Ace's mom. No words can fully capture the depth of my pain, but I will try. My son Ace was only 3 years old, full of life, love, and innocence. He was nonverbal and diagnosed with autism, a beautiful soul who saw the world differently. But on one heartbreaking day, my worst nightmare began my reality. Ace eloped, wandering away unnoticed, and found his way into the pool and drowned. And in that moment, my world shattered. Elopement wasn't just a term that I read about in parenting groups or a medical article. It was my daily fear, my constant battle. Ace was drawn to water like so many autistic children are. No matter what I did or how many precautions I took, it happened in the blink of an eye. I replayed that day in my mind over and over again, searching for something, anything that I could have done differently. But the truth is there's nothing that we could have done different. Parents like me can't do this alone. We need awareness, education, and a real change. Elopement stole my son from me, and it took away the chances for me to see him, succeed in things that he liked to do in his simple joys. Now I live with this pain that fades and an ache that no words can soothe.
Ms. Culp, were you weighing in as well?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Madam Chair Kagan, and members of the committee. My name is Andy Culp, and I'm the Executive Director of the ARC Maryland in support of House Bill 1204. This bill would require that each time a student elopes from school campus, defined as a school building or grounds without the express permission of a responsible school staff member, the school must notify the student's parent or guardian on the same day as the incident. In addition, at least annually, the school with the student's individualized education program team must review and address wandering or elopement behavior in updating the student's IEP or behavioral intervention plan. In Maryland, we know that nearly 27% of students were chronically absent in the 2023-2024 school year, according to the Maryland State Department of Education data. We don't know the numbers for how many students attended school but left during the day, and we had hoped to be able to collect this data through this bill before that portion of the bill was amended out in the House. But still, even without that data and reporting component of the original legislation, the bill as amended and passed in the House will ensure that families know when their child has left school without permission so they can respond. At the ARC Maryland, we've heard from many families who have loved ones who have eloped behaviors, many who have autism. We've heard that families are not routinely even told that their child has been wandering and eloping from school until the time of their IEP. I actually had a parent from Prince George's County call me and tell me that she would be the one to call the school when her son eloped because she put a tracker in his shoe. But otherwise, she never would have found out that her son was eloping from school.
In the case of young Miles M. from Charles County, the family only found out, just as Delegate Patterson said, at the time of his celebration of life, when school personnel came up and said, yeah, he's been wandering a lot. It's been a lot of incidents of wandering. Before then, she didn't even know that he had that behavior. So this is really important, and I think it can benefit students with and without disabilities. And so we ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the sponsor, Delegate Patterson? Our two witnesses. Senator Washington.
First of all, I just want you to know that we all feel you, and we support you, and I support your bravery for coming forward and using, your experience to help other families. So thank you so much for that. But I do have a question for, can you tell, the amendment to have it not be more broad. So you referenced that there was a broader, would have changed the, yeah.
We had said within 24 hours. The amendment now says the same day.
Okay, and then what's
The other is the name of the legislation is named after Ace Alexander, the young man whose mom is here.
Again, to make it clear that it's specifically to address this particular situation, not the broader associated with attendance.
Only
correct?
just
Yes.
elopement. Right.
Just want to be clear. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing none, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1204. We're going to next move Delegate Patterson to your other bill, House Bill 1352. And
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the Senate Education, Energy, and Environment Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Edith Patterson, sponsor of House Bill 1352, the Education, Public Health, Sickle Cell Disease. The legislation, again, is inspired by a personal experience I had with a student afflicted with sickle cell disease, SCD, who was a senior at an HBCU in Maryland. During a crisis, she was unable to attend her classes, complete assignments, or engage fully in her education. She reached out to me for assistance, and her situation highlighted the profound challenges that students with sickle cell disease face in balancing their health and academic responsibilities. As you know, sickle cell disease is a chronic condition that can significantly impact students' academic performance and overall school experience. While most people or students with sickle cell disease have normal learning abilities when they are not experiencing symptoms, the unpredictable nature of this disease often creates unique challenges that require thoughtful accommodations and support. Frequent pain crises, fatigue, and other complications can lead to missed class school days, difficulty concentrating, and lower academic performance if proper systems are not in place. HB 1352 seeks to address these challenges by encouraging the Maryland Department of Health to develop education and awareness campaigns to implement tailored programs and policies to support students with sickle cell disease, including accommodations. Collaboration with healthcare providers is critical to ensuring that schools are prepared to manage a student's medical needs, particularly during pain crises, and awareness and training to educate teachers, administrators, and staff about sickle cell disease. Awareness training would help identify symptoms, respond appropriately during crises, and better understand the needs of students with sickle cell disease. Given the significant challenge students face with this disease, this legislation is essential in encouraging that schools provide the accommodations and support needed to succeed academically. By requiring the Department of Health to create individualized plans, promote awareness training, and establish consistent access to medical resources, Maryland can improve the educational experience and outcomes for students with sickle cell disease and serve as a model for other states. In summary, House Bill 1352 is a straightforward, yes, yet impactful measure to support students at institutions of higher education who have sickle cell disease. It addresses a critical gap in educational equity and ensures that students have the resources and support they need to strive academically despite the challenges they face. I have submitted an amendment for consideration to change the name of the legislation to Caitlin's Law in honor of Caitlin Adams, the student I referenced. I respectfully urge you to give HB 1352 a favorable report. This legislation is supported by the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland and other advocacy organizations, including the statewide steering committee on sickle cell disease and Maryland Chesapeake chapter of the National Association of Pediatric Nurse Practitioners. It passed the House unanimously. Thank you very much.
Okay, Delegate Patterson, we don't have any additional witnesses signed up, so who do I have? Who's here?
Hi, my name is Tanika Hoffman, and I had issues online signing up, but I do have a testimony.
Okay, well, up to 2 minutes, and
Okay.
we'll let you proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. Hello, my name is Tanika Hoffman. I am the founder and the executive director of the Sickle Cell Coalition of Maryland. In addition, I am a proud sickle cell warrior. I'm here in support of HB 1352. Between the ages of 18 to 25 years old, sickle cell warriors entering college and matriculating through university face major challenges. One, not only from their disease escalating in frequency and crises and pain, but also them navigating the university system with a chronic illness. This is a critical phase in life as you're figuring out who you are, as well as learning what you want to be from a career perspective. I know that it's very difficult to go through university with sickle cell disease. The problem is we look normal. We might be academically inclined, but unfortunately, most professors don't believe that we have our blood suffocating our organs from the inside. What ends up happening is when you have a sickle cell crisis, more than likely you are forced to go to the hospital. And a pain crisis can last anywhere from a week, but in my case, 1 month. So imagine missing 1 month of classes and trying to convince your professors, although that you're registered with disability, that you are actually sick. All too often in our state, throughout our country, we're just not believed. The average sickle cell patient is taking them between 5 to 7 years just to graduate undergrad, and I think that's unacceptable. In my case, I was able to make it through that sophomore semester, but not with the best grades, and that was my weakest semester. But in the end, I'm asking that we bring this legislation to fruition so that administration and professors can support sickle cell patients. It is an invisible disease, but we're here to fight. And as a result, I graduated. I have a master's degree and 5 graduate certificates. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story.
Okay, questions for the sponsor or for our witness? Seeing none, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1352.
Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Smith, I've got you in the queue next. And House Bill 879, I've got 2 witnesses, Gail Martin and Kelly Quinn. They want to come up? And welcome, Delegate Smith. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And also thank you, Madam Vice Chair and distinguished members of the EEE Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Stephanie Smith. I represent the 45th District, and I'm here to present to you House Bill 879. This is a very simple bill that it creates a task force to improve attendance and reduce chronic absenteeism in Maryland schools. As we all know, there have been many significant investments that we're making in our students across the state, and I think it's important that our students are present to receive those investments. What this bill will do is require the Maryland State Department of Education to create a task force comprised of relevant community and education stakeholders. And this task force will be required to collect and analyze data regarding chronic absenteeism, identify local national strategies, recommend one definition of chronic absenteeism, and identify strategies that prevent chronic absenteeism, et cetera. By December 31st of 2025, MSDE must update its regulations on student attendance to incorporate the most effective recommendations identified by the task force and published common definitions. By June 20th, of 2026, the task force must publish a toolkit to prevent chronic absenteeism that was developed, with the consultation of the task force. As I said, we're making critical investments, but whether you're in urban, suburban, or rural school district, we know that solutions to combat chronic absenteeism will not be one size fits all. However, the North Star for all Maryland schools will be to reduce and eventually eliminate chronic absenteeism. This bill is a priority bill for the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland and has received support from important education community stakeholders like school social workers, school nurses, and was closely crafted with a consultation with MSDE. We can all agree that the forces that lead to chronic absenteeism are varied and can include family stress, economic stress, chronic illness, as we've even heard today, as well as weather as an impediment. With your support, we can devise a sustainable strategy to tackle chronic absenteeism. Thank you for your careful consideration of House Bill 879, and I'm hopeful for a favorable report. And I think it's worth emphasizing that this bill came out of the House unanimously, and that's a big deal. So again, thank you for your support and careful consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Delegate Smith. Let's go to our two witnesses. You'll each be on the up to 2-minute clock. Why don't we start on?
Hi there, I'm Kelly Quinn. I'm the Managing Director of the Choice Program, and today I'm here in my capacity as the Chairperson of the Maryland Coalition to Reform School Discipline. We are excited and pleased to suggest that this be voted favorable with amendments, and there are 3 general sets of concerns that we'd like to propose as amendments. One, we think that this study may take more time than having it completed by December 31st, 2025. When Morgan State University published a similar study on the winning strategies on the war against habitual student truancy, they took 18 months to come to their conclusions. So we respectfully suggest that it may take more time. Similarly, as the Morgan report explained, truancy can have multiple root causes. And in our testimony, the written testimony, we have 5 sets of perspectives that we think should be included in the task force, including the Maryland Transit Authority, community service providers, mental health providers, the experiences of students with IEPs and 504 plans, and then the experiences of superintendents and parents from rural, suburban, and urban communities. Our final set of concerns have to do with data and the reporting. We'd like to see that the data be de-identified when disclosed, and that we pay special care and attention to the data collection and storage. So those are our 3 major concerns, and we urge favorable with amendment reports, favorable with amendments as a report on HB 879. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Gail Martin. I'm here on behalf of NASW Maryland chapter. I'm a retired school social worker and pleased to speak about House Bill 879. We also came in with favorable for amendment. We had asked to be included on this panel, and we were. What we're asking for is to be sure to be included in this panel because we're included with several of our esteemed colleagues. School social workers, and there are about 700 of us in the state of Maryland now, believe it or not, are sitting on those teams with our school counseling colleagues, with our administrators, with our school nurses, with our school psychologists. And given that, excuse me, given that so many of the root causes are socially determined, we are the experts on the social determinants. So we are asking you absolutely to consider this bill and consider our amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I apologize. I did not offer the one minor amendment I had, just for
Okay,
the record.
sure.
It's been sent, to your staff.
Sure.
The first amendment just adds a co-sponsor, and the second one adds to establish categories that identify reasons for chronic absenteeism by students from the school, but in schools, and collect data for each corresponding category from each local school district.
amendment? I mean, we have to, is it somebody we like, or?
Delegate Taveras, Denny
Okay,
Taveras.
okay.
And she's also the proponent of that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, just
Okay.
figure it's the least we can do if we're accepting some of her input.
Okay,
is
so
to
let's,
make
we'll
her
take
form
questions now. We'll start with Senator Washington.
Senator, Delegate Smith,
And there's
thank
only
you
two
so
Smiths.
much.
I mean, there's only two of us.
Thank you so much for this bill, and again, thank you for the work, the choice program, and also, I love my social workers, and so I definitely, love this, and thank you for putting this bill. As you know, last year, JPR and our committee, there was a joint hearing about chronic absenteeism, but connecting it more to, causes around interactions with police, et cetera. So thank you for bringing it back to education. We really appreciate that. The amendments that, were they considered in the committee? They're being recommended or choice? Have you had an opportunity?
I do know that the social worker piece was considered and then added, but it's also, it reads as social worker or school nurse or public health, just because we know that every school doesn't have all of the things, you know what I mean? And we just wanted to be kind of open to that. I just want to also say there's 13 members of the task force overall, but there is a catch-all provision that the superintendent, MSD superintendent could also identify a person whose expertise is believed to be so relevant that they should be there. That's not maybe captured by some of the defining, occupations.
And then your aggressive timeline. I mean, I do those too. This is an urgent matter, and I understand. Could you just speak to that? Because maybe some members might want to.
So currently, as of January of this year, MSDE does have a task force around absenteeism that is not codified, obviously, but they have provided some preliminary data to, the public, the school systems. So we do have a sense of kind of the scope of which jurisdictions have the higher rates of chronic absenteeism. And I think that it's building upon these existing efforts within MSDE. So you're not really starting from scratch.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Okay, any additional questions? Seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 879.
Thank you so much, y'all.
I'm going to bring up, and again, I apologize if the list of, in the order people came in is inaccurate, but I've got Delegate Ebersol, and unless you can be honor code if you know for a fact that somebody else came in before you. Okay. Okay, you got two. Now, the good news is you've got two bills, and you're the only witness on both bills.
Yeah, there's a third bill that's also.
Okay. And I see Delegate Roberts.
I want a $5 bet against.
Move up front so I can see if you're hiding back there. That's not good. So Delegate Ebersol, do you have a preference as to which bill you go
Yeah,
first?
and I want to point out there's a third bill that is a Baltimore County delegation bill before you, and I can testify that as the chair of the Baltimore County House.
Well, why don't you start with the two Ebersol bills, then we'll go to the Baltimore County.
Okay. Well, numerical's best, I guess. House Bill 658 is a bill that was brought to me by the Juvenile Services Education Board. If you think back, we separated Juvenile Services as its own education board a few years ago from the Education Board of the state of Maryland, because they have unique challenges and things to overcome. One of the challenges that they've discovered is they're having a little trouble getting board members and keeping them. And so what they did was suggested some ways that board members could continue to serve. If one leaves and one gets appointed, they can finish that term, but then they can serve 2 consecutive terms after that instead of being cut short. And we also decided that we would set up a system whereby they would be staggered in their appointments so they wouldn't have to find them all at once. There was an additional thing that they asked for, which was that they're required to meet every month. They said, could we just say 10 times a year, and then we can add in some extra ones if we need to. So mostly it was just correctional and things that they needed to have a more complete and full board. And I bring it before you and urge a favorable report.
Okay, any questions for Delegate Ebersol on House Bill 658? Seeing none, that concludes House Bill 658 hearing. Delegate Ebersol, House Bill 986.
This is one that's going to show a little more personal enthusiasm. Thank you. Last year, I was pleased to bring forth a bill that passed that created better pathways and newer pathways for teachers to be certified. One of the things that happened, we discovered that past praxis tended to weed out candidates of color. And so we found other ways for them to get through the first stage. So my goal there was to get more people into teaching and perhaps more diverse teaching as well. Now this bill takes it the next step. This bill is designed to keep teachers in teaching once we get them there. And one of the things that I experienced as a first-year teacher is I had a rather bad experience with a supervisor, and I was about ready to quit. And some teachers very organically stepped up and helped me navigate the problems that I was having and deal with it. Had they not, I might not have had a rich 35-year teaching career. I think that teachers will do that rather naturally, but it's unfair to ask them to. And so this bill says that for first, second, and third year teachers, we will require the school to assign them a mentor in the building. And we will also, for first, second, and third year teachers, create cohorts of those teachers that will meet and be overseen by a veteran teacher. And the one catch is I think you ask teachers to do things, you should compensate them. This bill says the county will compensate them either with time or with pay for doing the work, the mentors and the people who run the cohorts.
Okay, questions for Doug Ebersol on this piece of legislation?
I heard a favorable report.
Okay, Senator Washington, again, we're on House Bill 986.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate and Chair of your delegation. I like this very much. I like the concept. Had you contemplated or was it considered as a part of your deliberation on the larger SB 429 and in terms of some of the incentives and mentorships that are there? Because I just wondered if you...
Sorry, I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, the blueprint bill. In other words, because it creates these new programs,
Right.
and some of your raising an important omission is around the retention items, other than collaborative time.
Right.
But there are other things, and I relate to this directly because, yeah. So
Sorry, I think of it as 504 because I'm House focused.
I understand.
Sorry about
I
that.
understand.
Yeah.
So that's the question.
Which, by the way, House 504 is a great number because if you're an educator, you know that a 504 plan is a special plan. So it's easy enough for me to remember that number. Yes, I did. I looked at that. I just think that this extra help is necessary.
Yes.
And we chose 3 years because that fits in with what PSTEB sort of goes with for induction for people who are beginning their teaching careers. We went with 2 originally, and actually, State Board came and said, maybe we should go with 3. So we're going to go, so we went ahead and said 3. They're new teachers too.
And can I ask you, is there any relationship between teacher retention or this type of mentorship and improving student outcomes?
I would have to believe it because you keep teachers there, but I haven't done that exact correlational study between them. The studies do show that, most teachers, a large percentage of teachers, and I think it's actually increasing, leave teaching in the first 5 years of teaching because they come disillusioned. I just think you need help. And I think if there's people there, one of the things that happened in Baltimore and Howard County when I left was they offered us buyouts as senior teachers to go because they were dumping our salaries. And I went back and asked one of my principals how that went. A bunch of us left. And he said it's terrible because they don't have the veteran presence to keep everybody calm and pat them on and say it's going to be okay and shepherd them through. So this, this engages those people to do that, I think.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.
Thanks a lot for the bill.
Okay, additional questions? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 986. Let's go to that Baltimore County delegation bill, House Bill 562.
Yes, House Bill 562 was brought to the delegation by the Republicans who are in the House delegation. They want to change the size of their central committee. They have 4 members per councilmanic district, and they wanted to reduce it to 3. And they were unanimous in that, and we were ready to pass it. A little study of the law, and I discovered that while the Central Committee in Baltimore County for Democrats structures its body around the number of legislative districts, not councilmanic, which is fully within their reach. We had not updated those legislative districts with the changes that occurred after the census in 2020, and so it was out of step. And so the amendment that you have that's with it, it comes amended to you, just amends the Baltimore County part. It's a cleanup, and it puts it in line with current practice. I will point out, someone might think, well, wouldn't that render the Central Committee election in 2022 invalid since the law said something different than was actually happening? The beginning of this section actually says that if this is in conflict with the party's constitution, the party's constitution takes preeminence. So this is really just kind of a nice thing to do, and we wanted to get it so it read correctly.
Okay, any questions on this local delegation bill from Baltimore County? Seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 562. I've got Delegate Harrison next up, and then Delegate Roberts, Solomon after that, and I see Nicole Williams. Oh, and okay, now I see everybody. Here's what I told you before: if you can come up to the front row, then I can see everybody. But this was a list of as people came in. But we're gonna take Delegate Harrison first on House Bill 771. And we've got Camille Fesh. You are the lone witness. Camille, why don't you come on up, signed up favorable. Delegate Harrison, take the time you need to present the bill.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Education, Energy, and Environment Committee. I am Delegate Andrea Fletcher Harrison, and I'm here to present House Bill 771, which is Student Health, a program for student dental health. The original purpose of this bill was for the Department of Health to create a regulation for a certificate of dental health that will be used by public schools to create a form that will be used by healthcare practitioners, parents, and schools to provide information to parents, guardians, parents and guardians on how to find insurance to cover dental care and a listing of providers. The amended bill before you requires the Maryland Department of Health to establish a program for dental health. As you know, children's oral health is a key public health priority. Dental screenings, just like physicals, ensure that students are prepared for school without any preventable condition, and I want to emphasize preventable, impairing their abilities to learn and succeed. This program will provide parents and students with information for recommended periodic examinations, provide information on how to find dental health care coverage, and emphasize the importance of dental health to a child's overall well-being. In 2017, the American Academy of Pediatric Dentistry Council on Clinical Affairs revised its 2003 policy to state that an oral health examination prior to matriculation into any school may improve school readiness by providing a timely opportunity for prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of oral conditions. I have a number of statistics that are listed in my written testimony that I won't go over. But I want to state, I want to go on to say that the American Association of Pediatric Dentists, in their 2019 report called The States of Little Teeth, indicate that tooth decay compromises the health, development, the quality of life for children, and affecting such factors as eating, sleeping, self-esteem, speech development, and school performance. The pain from tooth decay may hinder young children from speaking, playing, going to school, or paying attention in class. Children with poor oral health are more likely to miss school. We talked a lot about missing school already today, and are less likely to do all of their required homework. In the U.S., over 34 million school hours are lost each year due to dental problems. Children with poor oral health are nearly 3 times more likely to miss school because of dental pain and more likely to have lower school performance. Given that poor and minority children are especially subject to untreated tooth decay, these social and quality of life repercussions pose yet another barrier to achieving success in life. This bill allows the state of Maryland to continue the process of encouraging school-age children to receive and maintain better oral health, cut down on absenteeism in our school systems, and give our children a healthy start to academic success due to a baseline or initial screening. We all have a responsibility to help our children get the best possible start in school. It is my opinion that House Bill 771 provides the tools necessary to encourage parents to seek dental screenings for their children, and I respectfully ask a favorable report on this important bill for the health of our children. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Camille, why don't you, you'll be on the 2-minute clock, okay?
Thank you very much, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the esteemed committee. Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Camille Fesh, here on behalf of the Maryland Academy of Pediatric Dentistry, here in support of House Bill 771. First, we want to thank Delegate Harrison for bringing forth this incredibly important issue and beginning to put together a really important way to educate parents to help them get their children the care that they need so that they can have success in school and beyond. Delegate Harrison brought up a lot of really important points, but I want to talk a little bit about pediatric dentists. They are solely concerned with safeguarding the health and the safety of Maryland's children. In fact, over 75% of pediatric dentists accept children's Medicaid, more than any other specialty. So children here of all races, creeds, socioeconomic status will have with this education will have the ability to be able to access dentistry. Maryland already has a program called Healthy Smiles that where families can just very quickly on a website find out their local healthcare providers, their dentists that accept both general and pediatric dentists that accept Medicaid, which is really important to help with access. The American Academy of Pediatric Dentistry recommends that all children begin seeing a dentist at or around age 1 when their teeth begin to come in. And they should see a dentist every 6 months for an exam and preventative care such as cleaning and fluoride. And as Delegate Harrison mentioned, this is preventable. The most common chronic disease of childhood is cavities, which is caused by oral bacteria combining with sugars resulting in the destruction of tooth structure. Cavities are more common than asthma, hay fever, obesity, and diabetes in children. In this state, children as young as 2 or 3 years old are hospitalized with facial infections that could have been prevented with early intervention. And 51% of children aged 6 to 11 have dental decay. So for these reasons stated above, we strongly urge the committee to support this bill. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take questions for either the sponsor or for the Vice Chair. Kagan?
Chair, as the daughter of a dental hygienist, I am very aware of some of the challenges in getting young people to brush and floss and take good care of their teeth. So Delegate Harris and Ms. Fesh, I'm seeing in the testimony that there was opposition from both PAZAM, our superintendents, as well as the Department of Health. Could you just speak to those and whether they're all good with it now after the amendment?
You can start now.
Sure, okay. We spoke with Mary Pat Fannin of the school superintendents. They were opposed in particular to the reporting requirement. As Delegate Harris had mentioned, that one part that we really liked about the original bill is it was gonna have a form that your dentist could easily fill out and then keep with the schools. That was opposed to, but with the amendments that the House put in, I can say that they have removed their opposition and gone no position on the bill.
Okay.
Secondly, with the Maryland State, the dental board, the Board of Dentistry within the Department of Health did submit written testimony that they strongly supported this bill, and that was stated in the House hearing. However, I believe the Secretary's Office of Secretary of Health did submit that letter of opposition. We did check in with that, and they did report back that with the amendments, they have no opposition on the bill.
Great, it's helpful. And I see there were only 2 no votes on the floor, so that's pretty impressive. So congratulations, Delegate
We
Harrison.
won't ask you to out those 2.
I already looked.
Oh,
And
okay.
if you don't mind, I would say, well, I'm hoping the third time is a charm. This is the third time I put this bill in because I believe it is so incredibly important for children to have a baseline screening, just like they do with a physical exam. The issue that I have heard repeatedly is that they don't want to have to fill out another form. And in my opinion, I think that's a small thing to make sure that our children have a great start. As you know, if you have a tooth infection or a tooth problem, each and every one of us, we know how much pain we're in. And for a little person, they may not be able to adequately articulate what is going on with them, and they may mask it by just not saying anything, and that's when you begin to have more problems in school with those children. And so we just want to give them the very best opportunity that we can.
So because it's been so long ago, I just want to say the name Diamante Driver, who died from a tooth problem, tooth decay, in February of 2007 at the age of 12. And for it to be such horrible pain in his mouth that the infection went through to his brain and killed him.
Yes.
No child should die because of a cavity that wasn't treated. So thank you,
And we know that
Delegate.
if your teeth don't come in, you can't actually articulate well.
Right.
So, it causes a lot of problems.
Yeah. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Watson.
This bill, but when the kids get the screening, do they have to pay for the screening, or is it paid for by some other entity?
Well, there are opportunities if, if the parents do not have dental insurance for their children. The state of Maryland has insurance for their children, and this bill actually provides the information to the parents, the guardians, through the schools for them to be able to obtain that insurance information, as well as a list of dentists who would take that insurance.
Thank you for the bill. We're trying to make sure that, there's a whole laundry list outlining the blueprint of what wraparound services are, vision, but dentistry is a big, important part of it. And I think, if I read the bill correctly, that's for, certain areas, high poverty and those types of things where we want those services to be eligible. Well, I want to make sure all kids have access to this important thing. So thank you very much.
And people don't talk about dental care and the oral care the way that we talk about other health care.
But oral care is health care. So,
Okay.
sorry, I'm a sister of a
No,
dentist.
it's all good, all good. Any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 771.
Thank you very much.
Let's take up, we'll go Delegate Roberts. Again, I'm just going by my list, then Delegate Solomon after that. Delegate Roberts, we're on House Bill 935, and I've got two virtual witnesses. Are they in the queue? Okay, I have two virtual witnesses on the bill, Jane Maraglia and Jennifer Reeling. But why don't you proceed, Delegate Roberts, on House Bill 935.
Thank you, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and distinguished members of the Maryland Senate Education, Energy, and Environment Committee. I am Delegate Roberts from Prince George's County, and I stand before you today as the primary sponsor of House Bill 935, a bill that is not just a legislative initiative, but a deeply personal mission. This bill is about protecting our student athletes, our sons and daughters, our neighbors, our future leaders, by ensuring that when they step onto the football field, they have immediate access to life-saving medical care in case of an emergency. High school football is a beloved tradition in Maryland. It fosters teamwork, discipline, and a strong sense of community, but we cannot ignore the risks that come with the game. Injuries happen. Some are minor, but others can change a life in an instant. I know this reality firsthand. In 1985, my son's father, Mario Roberts, was the quarterback at Dunbar High School when he suffered a catastrophic injury during a football game. He broke his neck, severed his spinal cord, and became a quadriplegic. His life was forever changed in a matter of seconds. This tragic incident had a profound impact, not only on him, but his family, his dreams, and his future. Later in life, we met and married and had a son together, which means I can personally attest to how a devastating injury can alter the course of a life and how it ripples through generations. For example, when giving birth to our son, knowing how difficult it would be to transport myself and my son's father, I chose to have a home birth, partly to ensure that he would not have to miss the birth of what would be his only child. In fact, he testified on this bill when I introduced it in the House and originally signed up to testify virtually today. However, even though his name didn't make it on your list, due to medical complications related to his injury 40 years ago that arose today, he was going to have to cancel anyway. To say the least, a spinal cord injury is a tremendous and expensive lifetime adjustment. According to spinalcord.com, the initial cost of care for a spinal injury can be up to $1 million for the first year and nearly $200,000 annually. So we almost cannot afford to have these safeguards in place. This bill is not just about policy, it's about people. It's about making sure that no other family has to endure what my family did. It's about ensuring that when the unthinkable happens, we are prepared to act swiftly. Originally, as introduced, House Bill 935 mandated that a licensed athletic trainer or an ambulance be present at every high school football game. This is not an unnecessary burden, it is a necessary safeguard. Seconds matter in medical emergencies, and access to immediate care can mean the difference between recovery and a lifelong disability or even life and death. As a result of Mario Roberts' accident in 1985, the District of Columbia made significant changes to its policy on public school athlete safety. Private schools in Maryland are already doing this, and many of our public schools are too. Montgomery County is a great example. However, there are several schools in our state that are not up to par on this issue. Regarding the bill as amended and passed unanimously out of the House, the scope of medical professions were expanded to include nurses and/or physicians. As well, instead of requiring an ambulance to be on site, it would be acceptable for an ambulance to be within a radius of 3 road miles. We have a responsibility to our student athletes and their families. They trust that when their children step onto the field, every precaution has been taken to keep them safe. This bill ensures we are living up to that trust. I urge this committee to stand with me and support House Bill 935. Let's not wait for another tragedy to take action. Let's lead with courage, compassion, and conviction. Thank you, and I respectfully request a favorable report on HB 935. And if I may, I would also like to just recognize my godson, Jonathan Jordan, if he could stand up, because he is an athlete, a 9th grade student athlete playing football, basketball, and running track. And him listening to this hearing today shows him how to advocate for himself. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go to the 2 witnesses first, and then we'll take questions, starting with Vice Chair Kagan. So we've got 2 virtual witnesses. Maura, if you could cue them up. Okay, we'll start. First person I see, it's not matched with the name on the list here, but okay, is Jane Maraglia? Jane, okay, I guess it's Jane McLean or Jane Maraglia. Okay.
That's mine, I'm sorry. I registered with my maiden name instead of my married name.
That's all good. Okay, so you've got up to 2 minutes, and you're signed favorable with amendments, and then we'll go to Ms. Reeling after that, okay?
Thank you, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan, and committee members. My name is Jane Maraglia McLean, and I am here on behalf of the Maryland Athletic Trainers Association. We were very excited to see Delegate Roberts' initial version of this bill. However amended, we request amendments. The National Federation of High School Sports Association stated in 2023, athletic trainers are uniquely educated to provide immediate emergency care and acute injury care and render informed return to play decisions while managing everything in between. This is a range of abilities separating them from other healthcare providers and comprises a skill set that is protected by most state licensure, including in Maryland. ATs are uniquely qualified to be the healthcare provider for athletes. ATs are those with specific education, including sport-specific injury training, on-the-field injury assessments, and coordination of care for other emergent injuries, including cervical spine injuries, concussions, major orthopedic injuries, and internal injuries. ATs have the emergency care training that is essential in a fast-paced and high-impact environment of a football game, where injuries can occur unexpectedly and require rapid intervention. To give an example, from one of my first regular football season games in Maryland after I moved here a decade ago, I had an athlete go down the first play. As I was on the sideline, I was able to get to the injured athlete's side in less than 30 seconds and held cervical spine stabilization. As I built the relationship with my athletes, I was able to keep my athlete calm in a terrifying situation. As I built the relationship with my coaches and I had written the emergency action plan, I had practice it with my coaches, I was able to direct the staff to open locked gates, request a helicopter evacuation, and continue to provide care for my athlete that eventually my athlete was able to return to school months later. A volunteer will not have the trust that my athlete had in me, and neither would my coaching staffs, to drive this emergency response. Other healthcare professionals do not have the education and training that athletic trainers do. It's also important to remember we are talking about the care of minors. As an athletic trainer working at a school, I had parental permission to evaluate and treat my athletes, and I had liability insurance covering me to do so. Schools take on a lot of liabilities by having volunteers who do not have the proper training or medical care to be. To finish, I've not heard anyone say, but many districts now have women's flag football. This bill affects these athletes as well, and they've not been mentioned once. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reeling, you're up next, and you'll be also on the up to 2 minute clock.
Thank you. I would first like to thank Delegate Roberts and Senator Watson for adding me to the witness list this morning and to each of you for your time and attention. I am pleased to offer my support of HB 935 with amendments as requested by the Maryland Athletic Trainers Association. My name is Jennifer Reeling, and I have been both a Prince George's County resident and an athletic trainer in the secondary school setting since 1991. I was one of the first full-time athletic trainers for the District of Columbia Public Schools from 91 to 2023, hired in response to a mismanaged event that actually Delegate Roberts mentioned. It was her son's father that resulted in permanent disability. I then retired from DCPS, and I am now the first full-time athletic trainer for KIPP DC public charter schools. Secondary school student athlete health and safety is my passion and expertise. I am a member of the Jordan McNair Foundation and the Corey Stringer Institute Medical Advisory Boards, the chair of the District of Columbia State Athletic Association Sports Medicine Advisory Board, immediate past chair of the National Athletic Trainers Association Secondary School Athletic Trainers Committee, and have served on the National Federation of High School Sports Medicine Advisory Board. Nationally, several high school student athletes die annually while engaged in athletic participation. In some cases, these may have been preventable with appropriate oversight and planning. Many, however, are tragedies that occurred without warning and/or did not receive the appropriate response in a timely manner. Clearly, the presence of an athletic trainer who is familiar with athletic injuries and emergency response in the athletic setting, in conjunction with thorough venue-specific emergency action planning, can mitigate many of these issues. Many Maryland school districts have not taken the initiative to invest in this crucial resource. HB 935 is a strong starting point to protect the health and safety of the young people entrusted to our care. It is my hope that this legislation passes and will serve as a gateway to full-time athletic trainers at all high schools and the comprehensive athletic health care that each student athlete deserves every single day, not just on game day.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll take questions now. Vice Chair Kagan, you had a question? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate Roberts. It's good to see you, and I am so sorry for your personal journey on this issue. And I know we each bring our passion to our bills, but sometimes when they affect us in our own lives, it's really especially tough. So thank you for sharing the story. I have two questions. I have a gender question, but more broadly, I have a sports question. This bill is about football, but basketball can be also dangerous, and field hockey and powder puff football by young women and all that. And I'm wondering what the thinking was. I got a text, I'm just going to read really briefly, from someone who's aware of this bill. And we've had student athletes with cardiac issues during basketball. The one time in 3 years of high school athletics that an ambulance was needed at any of my kids' games was field hockey, a ball to the face with possible head injury and fractured jaw. And yet that wouldn't be included in this. I love the 3-mile limit. I think that makes some sense and makes it less expensive for our local counties and stuff. I wonder if you could speak, though, to other sports and being a little more inclusive. Did the House consider that? Did you consider that?
Sure. Thank you for that question. It was never in the bill, as the witness stated. I would love for it to be in the bill. I know about our budget constraints, and I also know there are some entities and organizations that don't like it when we place parameters where they have to start spending more money. So I wanted to start. This was not something that I was just gonna finish with, right? If the bill passed, I was gonna start with football and kind of continue on in future years or future sessions to try to enhance the safety of athletics or our student athletes across all sports. But I chose football first because it is a very high contact and impact sport. So that's the primary reason.
Quick follow-up question, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Delegate Roberts, do you have any data, or are you aware of any data that maybe one of our virtual witnesses might have or something, as to the number of serious injuries across all sports in the state of Maryland over the last X years or something? Because that could also help guide the conversation.
So, no, I don't have numbers of the injuries.
Serious injuries. I mean, not just
right, the
yeah.
serious injuries. I don't have data on that, no. I will admit that. What I do know is that what brought me to what even brought all of this back is how my sister and I were attending a football game at a high school in my district that always goes to the state championship lately. And there was an injury with the quarterback from the opposing team, and the amount of time that it took for an ambulance to get there was astronomical. Once they got there, the amount of time to load him into the truck, whatever the injury was, and then the amount of time that they sat there on the field in the freezing cold and until they were told to even move off the field. I don't know what was going on in that ambulance, but if I was that child's mother, I would have been demanding that these wheels get rolling to the hospital.
Or father, or anyone, yes.
So, you know, I wanted to address this issue because it does take me back to my former family situation.
Of course. So just in closing.
Oh, but I'm sorry, if I may. What I don't have statistics on the number of serious injuries, but what I do know is I saw a report that was actually partially published or put together by the association that shows that in Prince George's County, there were only 5 athletic trainers at 5 schools out of 20 to 20, I believe it's like 25 high schools with football programs. Charles County, they have an athletic trainer at every football game, and they have an ambulance at every football game. Baltimore City was also one of the counties that I saw with very few athletic trainers. Montgomery County has a stellar model for athletic safety and the way that they get their a model for how they're very creative in how they make sure that their athletic safety program is administered. I just think that it should be for all schools in Maryland. And again, I only started with football because it was the most high impact, but I would love to see it go even further.
Thank you, Delegate Roberts. And in closing, I just want to say we've been talking about 911 all day today in the Senate. And Second Save Lives is the song that Roman Jackson wrote and was an award winner, and it was about 911. So your story is spot on. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Okay, let's go Senator Gallion, then Senator Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Delegate.
Yes.
Can you speak to the rationale behind the latest version, including nurses in the latest form of the bill, and how their scope of practice or their training aligns or differs from the athletic trainers that the one witness spoke about?
Sure. The goal is, well, first of all, let me just say this. Once it was introduced, it goes to the subcommittee. I'm not on that subcommittee. I was notified that the bill was going to be passing out with some amendments. And I think wasn't just enough time to deliberate over that. But for me, the goal is to have, if we don't have an athletic trainer on site, if we don't have a doctor on site, if we don't have an EMT, if in the event that something serious happens, it's about mitigating the situation until the proper care can be provided. For me, that's why I thought, okay, well, nurses can also be trained in this area if we come up with a program, especially since a lot of federal jobs are being lost right now, and we can start creating a whole new industry now. So, people are going to be looking for jobs. But that's just, thank you for the question.
Senator Brooks.
Thanks, Chair. Hey, thanks. Quick question. Is it not mandatory currently for all schools to have an EAP in Maryland? And then I also thought in the it's called the Learn Act of 2018 mandates that it is updated with the latest.
So what's mandatory is the emergency action plan. Right. But how they structure it, how that would be up to the school systems, their policies. But it currently is not mandated, not from what I read in the law.
Okay, I thought COMAR 13A-02-02-01 requires that each school have an EAP, or emergency action plan.
Right, right, an emergency action plan, but it doesn't specify what the plan, what that plan is, what's in that plan.
What is detailed?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, okay, all right, good. All right, that answers the question.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing on House Bill 935. Okay, let's you got some folks that have to be in like 3 places at one time here. Okay, let's go Delegate Solomon next, House Bill 1090. And you're the only witness, so you can proceed, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I promise this is a quick one and actually a very simple bill. For the
They're
record,
all simple.
They're all simple. No, this one actually is simple. I know I snickered when I even thought about saying that. For the record, Delegate Jared Solomon here presenting House Bill 1090 and happy opening day to those of you who celebrate. Appreciate the tie of my Phillies pocket square here. Don't hold that against me. This actually is a simple bill. So as originally submitted, this bill builds off of a lot of the really great work that I know your committee has done, as well as our Committee on Appropriations, on trying to address the really growing need of the growing problem of hunger on our college campuses. I know we just heard from Senator Washington in our committee yesterday, and something that was really important to me when I was the vice chair of the EED subcommittee. So this bill builds on that work. We've been working with that same coalition, and as originally introduced, this bill had a number of tweaks to the SNAP provisions that apply to college students. I want to give a particular shout out to the Department of Human Services and Melissa Bender on their team, who worked really closely with our office. And so the entire basically first part of the bill is struck because DHS agreed to do what we had originally put in legislative language through regs. Again, they were really wonderful partners, so that's why you see, again, basically the entire first part of the bill is struck out. What remains is something that MPEC told us they actually did need statutory approval to basically just add a question to the MD-CAPS application, which is what our college students have to fill out in order to be eligible for state financial aid. And the question is some variation of, have you gone hungry within the last 6 months? It is not a required question, but if a student chooses to answer it, it will allow our institutions of higher ed to much more quickly and directly actually administer services that they have. And we know, again, building off the work of the General Assembly, we have a lot of campuses that participate in the hunger-free program or have been really building out their infrastructure for food banks. And so this would allow them to immediately go to that student and say, hey, you've indicated you've missed a meal. Do you think you're eligible for SNAP? Here's how you would do it. Here's the services and supports that we can apply. We can help you apply for. MHEC is fully supportive of this. I know Derek Cooley from MHEC was going to be here, unfortunately had a death in his family. And I think the fiscal note is something like $6,000 for them to add the question to the MD-CAP system, which they can more than cover with their existing resources. So with that, would urge a favorable report.
Okay, any questions for Delegate Solomon? Okay, seeing none, that concludes the bill here on House Bill 1090.
Thank you.
Okay, before we go to Delegate McCaskill and then Delegate Josh, okay, I know you're being asked to testify in 2 committees or something at the same time. Okay, so you're the only witness on this. We'll let you do your testimony. You can rush up to B&T and it's all good. Okay, thank you, Delegate McCaskill and Delegate Williams. Okay, Josh, well, first of all, tell you you're here on behalf of Delegate Jones?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're on House Bill 1344. Why don't you proceed? And then we'll let you
Mr.
rush
Chair. Thank you,
out of
members
here.
of the committee. My name is Josh Paper, here to represent Delegate Jones for House Bill 1344, Assessment of State-Owned Facilities, Child Care Centers. Another very simple bill. This bill directs DGS to conduct an assessment of state-owned property that could be suitable and is available to be leased for the purpose of a child care facility, and then provide that report back to the General Assembly. As amended in the House, the scope of the bill is limited to buildings operated by the 16 state agencies that the department currently supports. I'm happy to answer any questions about the bill. And I see in the revised fiscal note that it did not eliminate that fiscal note, but I confirmed today with DGS that is eliminated. They can do it with existing resources. as amended. So with that, I request a favorable report.
Okay, any questions for Delegate Jones's representative on House Bill 1344? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on House Bill 1344. We're going to next go to Delegate McCaskill on House Bill 477. Thank you for your patience. I know you've been sitting around here a while. And same thing for Delegate Williams. Okay, we're on House Bill 477, and you are the lone witness. Oh, well, actually, that's not true. Ellie Homers. Okay, and so you proceed on House Bill 477.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So since this is my first time here, I figured you all were like hazing me or something. I wasn't for sure what the protocol was here, so thank you all for having me. For the record, I am Delegate Alethea McCaskill, and I'm here asking for a favorable report on House Bill 477, the child care homes and child care center alterations. For some of you who may not know me, I am this coming May, 27-year family child care provider. And so I have been looking at the concept of this bill along with the unions probably for now 12 years coming for this bill. Originally, I was not on this particular ratio bill. As you see, Mr. Chair Barnes was there, and he said, Alethea, I need you to help me with some of this language. And so hence, me getting on board. Originally, this bill was to address the concerns around the child care centers. And my bill, I had a bill with concerns around family child care. So we decided to combine it. This is to help address a lot of the growing concerns around the supply and the demand of family child care and child care center slots, especially now with the implementation of the blueprint in Pillar 1 and making sure that community partners are a part of the 3 and 4-year-old pre-K expansion. What it does is take away some of the seats for family child care and child care centers with the current ratio. And so we wanted to change the ratio for this July for it to go into implementation. However, as you see with a lot of the amended language, we spoke with MSDE and other child care advocates to address the concerns. And instead of this being implemented for this coming July, shall it pass here, we decided to let this be an analysis within the agency or a study within the agency. And if we don't have to do policy legislation, we would like to not do that and have the agency to do what is best fit for the child care community. And so for HB 477, since I am on appropriations, one of the things I look at is the fiscal note. If you see, there is no fiscal note because they can do this with already existing resources within MSDE. And so with this HB 477, MSDE will do determinations around the safety environment for children and the facilities employees, the quality child care education program, and the significant impact on opening or operation of child care centers. What we would like, because I said in the beginning, this has been, we have been trying to get this done for over a decade now, but with the blueprint, there's an urgency. If you all remember hearing or even reading the report given by the Comptroller's Office around child care and the urgency of the exodus we have of child care providers and not being able to sustain providers. We don't want we don't want to lose them because they are not going to open their doors for just a few children. We have to make it worth their while. So this will help address, hopefully, the study analysis, the recommendations that will come back from MSDE. What I would like to say is I have ran around to speak with several folks, including on your committee, and with the chair, Ways and Means, because there's been conversations to change the start date. And so we have come to a compromise of the start date. You'll see in the language on page 5, and I'll make sure that you all have it if you don't, that there is an interim report due for January 2026, and then the final report due for September 2026. That's not going to work. And so we're asking to make an adjustment. And I say that to be quite blunt, if you all already or don't know me. I said it again, it's been over 10 years. We have been trying to get MSDE and to change this policy, and they have literally been dragging their feet. And I fear that if we don't do this good work now, that we may have to work until possibly 2027 or 2028 to address an urgent need in the child care community now. And so with that, I yield my time for now and to my wonderful
Okay, we'll go to
co-colleague.
our lone witness on the bill, signed up favorable. Tell us
Yes,
your name, and you got up to 2 minutes.
Sure. Ellie Colmers on behalf of the Maryland State Child Care Association and SEIU Local 500, who, in addition to representing many working people across the state, also represents family child care providers, such as the delegate here. I can't really put a finer point on the urgency to address the need for available slots in childcare. I think every one of you in your district has faced and heard from families that struggle to find affordable and accessible childcare. This is as amended, would require the department to take a look at childcare regulations, look at best practices from states across the nation, and make recommendations on how to both support families and support childcare providers. That's something that I really want to put a very fine point on here, is that our childcare providers are doing some of the most important work in our economy. They're supporting our economy. They're the workforce behind the workforce, and yet they continually face barriers and other struggles. I mean, on March 15th of this year, MSDE issued a letter notifying the General Assembly that the cost models they had been using for the new provider reimbursements for the child care scholarship, for the reimbursement rates, that those numbers were wrong. And so now our child care providers are going to have to wait an additional 6 months to see the promised increase in that reimbursement. So I think that we're at a point now where we really need to take a step back, take a look, and try and address some of these systemic issues that we have within childcare. And so with that, I urge a favorable report. There is one amendment that we would suggest, which is to require the department to consult with various stakeholders so that we're making sure that the industry's voice is heard as they're looking at their own regulations. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, take questions by either Delegate McCaskill or Ms. Colmers. Okay, Senator Washington.
Again, welcome to your first, which I hope many. Yeah, we have not paid much attention at all in this body to childcare, and I'm very happy that there are bills coming over from the House to move this forward. And I wonder, I guess Senator McCaskill, Delegate, oops, well, look at me, I'm promoting everybody today.
All right.
I'm so used to saying Senator. No. So first of all, thank you for the bill. I guess I was starting. And you were speaking to the timeline. Yes. And so I also, what type of timeline? So you would like this body to consider an amendment to accelerate the timeline, is that the?
Yes, absolutely, and accelerating because there is an urgency now. Mm-hmm. We are in a supply and demand crisis now. But my fear is because I have, prior to being a delegate, I work with in leadership with the unions, and I've been a child care provider for almost 30 years. So I know how the agency works, meaning MSDE. Originally in the bill right now, we have the final report not due to September 2026. 2026. The problem with that is originally I wanted the final bill to be done for January 2026. Why? Because depending on the agency's recommendations, we may have to introduce a bill next session. Right. And if we don't do that, if we wait until September 1st, 2026, then it'll be 2027 if we have to introduce some legislation that probably won't be enacted in the child care community until late 2027, 2028 to address an issue that is happening right now. And this is just for them to give recommendations of how they think the ratios should be adjusted for providers and centers.
And just one more question. So this has to do with both, sort of your publicly cited childcare as well as private providers.
Yes.
So we have those that are associated with our public school systems, and it's sort of, and then we also have independent family providers as well. So this would address both of those
Absolutely.
populations. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bill hearing
Thank you.
on House Bill 477, which brings us to our final bill of the day, House Bill 317. Delegate Nicole Williams on, again, House Bill 317.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Feldman, Vice Chair Kagan. I wish she was here because I know how much she is such an expert on election law. And members of the Senate Education, Energy, and Environment Committee, I'm Delegate Nicole Williams, asking for a favorable report on House Bill 317, known as the Election Law Curbside Voting Pilot Program. This bill will create a pilot program here in the state of Maryland to look at the designation of curbside voting locations during primary and general elections. As stated in the bill, these areas must be determined by the local board at least 6 months in advance and are subject to approval by the state board. This legislation really honestly will expand voting access for individuals with mobility limitations who may still wish to vote in person. Curbside voting is a type of voting that is already enacted in 27 states, bipartisan states across the country, as well as the District of Columbia. And during each cycle here in Maryland, we have some individuals who are forced to overcome physical hardships in order to exercise their right to vote. And because of that, some may decide not to participate at all due to the struggle that in-person voting would cause them. And while we do have vote by mail, ballots are not automatically mailed to every voter in the state. So if a voter fails to submit the request form for a mail-in ballot, they have to physically go vote, either during the early vote period or on election day. According to the Election Assistance Commission during the 2020 election, the usage of absentee ballots, there was about 62% voter turnout among people with disabilities. Additional methods may increase that number in people who have disabilities who wish to vote in future elections. And data from the American Community Survey shows that approximately 11% of the entire population here in the state of Maryland has some type of cognitive, hearing, vision, or ambulatory disability, which can impact their ability to contribute to the right to vote. Curbside voting is effective for individuals who are physically unable to go inside and vote. This bill helps people to vote comfortably without the unnecessary stressors that may go along with this. And this can also help other individuals who may be elderly, those with some type of life-threatening illness, or even pregnant. Passing this legislation will allow individuals to exercise their right to vote in person and significantly contribute to election outcomes here in our states. A lot of other states, as I mentioned, 27 other states currently have this type of voting and are able to do this in a very safe manner. And there was an amendment that was added to the bill before it came over here from the House that would add an additional communication to really emphasize that this type of voting is preference for individuals who have disabilities as defined by the American Disabilities Act, as well as voters with limited mobility and elderly voters, so that individuals will know that the preference for this mode of voting is for those individuals, and it's not like you're going to Burger King and getting a Whopper or something. For all of those reasons, I am asking this committee to give a favorable report to House Bill 317.
Okay, any questions for the sponsor? Delegate Williams? Sure, Senator Simon.
Thank you for the bill. Just in your comment, you said the preference. Does that mean that anybody could use it? It's just they prefer other classes to use it or disabilities?
Yeah, anyone could use it. We did not want to actually for a variety of different reasons, did not specify that this mode of voting has to be limited to individuals within certain classes, honestly, just so that we weren't violating any type of federal laws by doing so and discriminating against individuals. And so, in theory, anyone can, you don't have to necessarily, when you go to a curbside voting location, you don't have to provide documentation that you have a disability or anything along those lines. But because the impetus around the introduction of this bill is to assist those who do have mobility limitations, we want to make sure that voters know that to allow individuals who truly do need this method in order to vote in person, the ability to use so, and not to simply utilize this method simply out of convenience.
Okay, last question. I don't want a real long explanation, but I'm trying to visualize this. So I know at a school and all that, you have that. What would you do? You pull up to a curb and they would have like a Chick-fil-A type of thing?
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember during COVID, a lot of states had this type of voting set up. Texas was one very good example of this, and they had facilities that were located, say, in the parking lot of a school, for an example, where there was a tent set up, and there was an election official there at the tent that had the voting apparatus there for the individual. So as that individual pulled up, they would be able to check in at the poll book, just like you would do if you're going physically inside of the polling place. And then also the mechanism there, if you wish to vote, whether electronically or via paper. This isn't the first time I've presented this bill to this committee. The State Board of Elections is currently, I believe, has an RFP out with regards to its voting apparatus, looking at to procure machinery that would allow them to be able to do this effectively. And so that is the reason why this version of the bill that we're introducing this year is merely a pilot, because it is going to be in line with that procurement that's being done by the State Board of Elections, and allow them the ability to test out to see if this form of voting would actually be viable and feasible here in the state of Maryland. And I apologize, it might be the attorney and me being a little long-winded, so.
So, Senator Washington, then Senator Brooks.
So did you get, this has to, and thank you for the bill, Delegate. Were you specifically told that constructing this as a reasonable accommodation would violate something? I mean, you can imagine.
Yeah.
If anybody could do it, anyone could do it. And then there's the distinction between having to demonstrate, you know, a disability or your age. I'm just trying to understand what the opposition was, because certainly it would be helpful to narrow, if even within the pilot, to narrow access.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the initial versions of the bill did have that specificity in the bill, and that was a concern that was raised in one of the earlier versions of the bill. And so, like I said, the Ways and Means Committee did put forth an amendment that you should have in your system with regards to the communication surrounding this form of voting because of those reasons.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to Senator Brooks.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Delegate. The Maryland Association of Election Officials, they said that they had, they thought the bill would present a significant challenge. They said they faced with a lack of compatible technology to efficiently implement curbside voting, and our current ballot marking devices and poll book printers, while standardized across the state, are not designed for outdoor or mobile use.
Right, and that's why I mentioned the procurement with the State Board of Elections.
Future procurement?
Right, that is in the process as we
Okay.
speak. And so they are looking to secure machinery and poll books that would be conducive to curbside voting.
Okay, and the other thing they were thinking about was election security. So that would address that concern.
It would address that concern as well because of the type of machinery that they're using. Like I said, there's 27 other states that currently do that, and they have the type of machinery that would be secure with this type of voting.
Okay, all right, thanks.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Chair.
Okay, additional questions for Delegate Williams? Okay, seeing none, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 317. It concludes our bill hearings for today.
Thank you.
What I'm going to suggest, kind of like, first of all, I have to ask, who can go off? Okay. Somebody else was signed up on that I apologize.
I did have a couple of people.
Oh.
I think it was sponsored.
It was only sponsor only, so I apologize. Yeah, we put that on the website, so I think we got the issue, but that,